Welcome to Paranormal Junkie. Today, I want to go over a mind-blowing subject, reincarnation. There are tons of documented cases of reincarnation, and I'm going to go over some of my personal favorites, from a Scottish warrior to a kid who claims that he is his own grandfather. Stick with us as we go deep into the unknown. Edward. When Edward was a boy, he would constantly complain that his throat hurt. He would always tell his mother that his shot was hurting. His mother kept taking Edward to the hospital to figure out why his son kept complaining about his throat. Now, after seeing dozens of doctors, Edward's mother finally decided that it was all in Edward's head. As Edward started to grow a little older, he would tell his mother amazing stories of life in the trenches of World War I, and that he had been shot in the throat and killed, making Edward's mother eventually believe that is the reason Edward would always complain about his throat. Gus Taylor. Gus Taylor was 18 months old when he started to say that he was his own grandfather. Gus's grandfather died a year before Gus was born. When Gus was 4, the family was looking at some old photos, and he identified Grandpa Augie and told his parents that that was him. Over time, Gus's parents really started to believe that he was telling the truth, because there is no way he could know some of the things he did. Now, the family never told Gus that his grandfather's sister was murdered. One day out of the blue, Gus told his parents that his sister was murdered and thrown in the San Francisco Bay. He also stated that when he died, God gave him a ticket and he was able to travel through a hole and come back as his own grandson. Cameron from Scotland. Cameron Macaulay was born in Scotland. Since the age of 2, he told his mother that he was from an island just off the west coast. He constantly talked about a white house on the island where he once lived. He also talked about his black and white dog and his other dad. He remembered his other dad's name, Shane Robertson, and said that he died by being hit by a car. Every day, Cameron would tell his mother that he really missed his other mother. So one day, the family decided to visit the island where Cameron claimed he was from. Cameron took them directly to the house. Now, the family was speechless, as the house was exactly as Cameron would draw. They decided to knock on the door, and the owners of the house were, in fact, the Robertsons. Cameron knew all the members in the family photos, and there were a lot of pictures of the black and white dog. Now, as Cameron got older, he started to lose his memories of his past life, but still remembers that when he died, he got to go through a hole and ended up in his current mother's tummy. Now, this is very similar to Gus Taylor. Peter Hume. Peter Hume always knew he had a past life. He would tell people that he was a foot soldier of Cromwell's army in the mid-17th century. He was a Scottish border guard. He even knew his name, John Raphael. He spoke extremely confidently about his past life. Now, his confidence and the stories he would tell made people extremely curious. They wanted to put him under hypnosis. But before going under hypnosis, they wanted to contact a village historian that knew that area extremely well. Everything Peter Hume would say amazed the historian. The one thing that really put the icing on the cake is the story of the church that he got married in. Peter knew every detail about this church. Now, this church is not publicized and got torn down in 1676. The historian was now hooked by Peter's stories, and he wanted to dig deeper. After months of digging up old documents, the historian found that a person named John Raphael did in fact get married in that church. Now, there is no way Peter Hume could know this information, making this one of the most famous cases of possible reincarnation. Imad from Lebanon. When Imad was just a boy, he started talking about his life in a nearby village. When he was 2 years old, he told 2 strangers that they used to be his neighbors. All day long, he would drive his parents nuts talking about his past life. Imad's stories eventually got worldwide attention. Dr. Stevenson contacted the family. Dr. Stevenson and Imad's parents wanted to find out if Imad could possibly be telling the truth. They decided to go to the town where he said he lived. Imad had never been there before, at least in this life. What happened next made a lot of people believe in reincarnation. Imad recognized his previous uncle and his mistress from photographs. He was able to remember where he kept his gun, While walking down the street, Imad was able to identify an old war buddy of his. Imad talked with his old war buddy for hours, making the old vet get a little freaked out. In total, 51 out of 57 of the experiences and places mentioned by Imad were verified during that visit alone. There's just no way a little boy could know these things, unless he was the person that he says he was. One thing that I would like to say is a lot of children these days have very amazing documented stories of their past life. And as they get older, their memories would fade. In some cases, eventually disappear altogether. Another amazing thing is, a lot of these children say that they got to go down a hole, like they had to get permission first in order to come back. I just find that extremely interesting, and personally, I would love if that was true. After doing tons of research on reincarnation, I am actually a believer. So if your life is not that great this time around, don't worry. Your next life might be fantastic. Or it could be a total disaster. But eventually, you might just get to be the future king of England.